So, Linda, let's get straight into it. What is, in fact, the job of a costume designer?
It's basically somebody who is going to creatively put clothes on an actor's back that is going to portray his or her character.
Right.
Through specification of the script and producer and director, etc.
Right. But of course, along with that, there comes the whole management issue as well. It's not, you know, it's not just the airy-fairy creative side. It's the whole nuts and bolts and,
absolutely,
you know.
Yeah, it's sorting out, you know, what you need to collect when. It's thinking ahead. I'm doing a series at the moment, and it's 13 episodes. And while you're shooting the one you currently have got all the costumes for, you're thinking ahead for the next one, the next 6, you know, etc. So it's a lot of logistics as well as just.
So when should someone like yourself get involved in a film production? At what stage?
I think basically they give you as much as they can afford you for. I mean, so as long as you've got enough prep time, you can actually get your whole show together. And what happens now increasingly is that budgets are cut, prep time is lessened, and you still have to sort of get, you know, clothes together on shot, you know, on screen when it's needed and stuff. So it's up to the production really. But as long as you've got enough time to actually get the show together and get costumes on actors' backs. Really.
And when you say enough time, I'm assuming, you know, if we're shooting on Monday, that doesn't mean call me on Friday.
No, not quite, you know. You do need time to be able to talk to your actors, get measurements and arrange fittings. Right. Pull the costumes and arrange fittings.
Because there's a bunch of stuff there that I know from my experience that you kind of expect, when you think about costume design, you expect certain things to happen. But it's so much more complicated. I mean, it's you know, when you've not got your actors cast, because everyone's kind of deciding whether they want to be in it or not. Yeah. So you don't know whether you're going to have an 8-foot or a 3-foot midget or a, you know, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it makes it fun, yeah. You have to be very flexible, and I think you have to know that it will come out all right on the night. I think that's what you've got to do. You'll have to trust yourself to think that, providing you've got your ducks lined up as much as you possibly can before you go, then you can actually achieve it, you know.
Right. Should actors wear their own clothes, do you think?
Yes, if it's a modern show and it's something that actually is suitable for the character, and they don't mind, then, I mean, especially on low-budget stuff, you can turn and say, look, do you happen to have in your wardrobe X, Y, Z, something that might suit you for this character or so? And that, you know, it's happened a lot of things we've done, isn't it? So. Right.
But what are the complications of that approach?
Right, providing the person working with you understands that once they've given the clothes, that it's basically your domain, and to not go home with it. I mean, there's instances galore where people have gone home with things and they've forgotten to bring them the next day, and it's continuity, therefore you're in a real nightmare scenario. Right,
right. And how do actors feel about wearing their own clothes?
It depends on the level of production. If it's a low budget thing and people are all understanding that they're working on the same page, which means we have no money, please could you, you know, lend something, and they're very happy to do that, then that's fine. If it's a much bigger thing and you have the money to provide the costume, then I think you should, you know.
Do you think there's a danger that actors don't necessarily always have the character at the front of their mind? They may think they may look good in something, and that may not be appropriate. Is managing that, is that often an issue?
I mean, on the whole, I've got to say, with most actors that I've ever worked with, they are very good and they are very caring about what they want to do and want to achieve, so therefore they have got the character in mind. So there's not often that you get somebody where, you know, you're in a fitting, you're trying to pull out a character and create it together, and they're going in one direction because they want to look good in something, and you're going in another. You're trying to fulfil the brief, and they're kind of pulling against you. And if that happens, you have to kind of gently kind of bring them around so you're going on the same page, really.
Right. Let's just talk about the negotiation process of how you work with an actor, your creative ideas that you put into a project, and then the kind of just the ability to deliver it within a budget. How do you approach that? It's almost like a big mess of stuff. You know, you've got really creative stuff. You've got actors you don't know what size of clothes they're going to be, what temperaments they're going to be. You've got a budget that is constantly in flux. How on earth do you manage that without going insane?
Well, experience helps, obviously. It's about being a juggler. You have lots of balls in the air at one time, any one time, you know, and you've got to keep them all there. And I think you've got to understand it's a process, it's a creative process. So you will start with, you know, what's on the page. You'll start with the character, you meet the actor, you see what their input is, you have your own ideas, you've pulled out a costume, you know, you're talking to a director and a producer and getting their ideas as well put into it. And it's about just bringing the whole thing together. It's all very nebulous and whatever, and it's almost like bringing something into focus. As you focus more and more, as I say, you've got an actor that really is worth their salt. They're flying alongside you. Do you know what I mean? You kind of fly in tandem to create this character as much as you can, really.
Right, right. And I know I've been round to dinner at your place enough times now, and almost without exception, there's the little rant about the producer or the director who says, "Do they think I've got a tree in the back garden?"
Yes, I have a costume tree in my back garden. It comes in very handy, if only it was real. I think sometimes it depends on, again, people's perceptions and stuff. But, you know, you're a costume designer, you're a costume person trying to get clothes together. You don't have a magic tree that produces costumes in your back garden, but sometimes people forget that and they kind of think you do, you know, and then you've got to kind of very gently remind them that, in fact, you know, I do need this. There are certain parameters I do need to meet. You know, I need enough money, I need enough time, I need my cast, you know. I mean, they know that as well, do you know what I mean? But sometimes, according to what the constraints and difficulties are on them, what their experience is, whether they can deliver those things to you or not, depends on how easy or not it is for you, you know. Right.
So given that there isn't a magical costume tree in your back garden, where in fact do you get costumes?
Well, a lot of the time you will either, depends on your budget, you'll buy, if it's modern dress, you'll hire, or you'll make. If it's a specific costume and it needs to be made, or you've got doubles to do, or you've got something where, you know, someone's going to get blood on them and you want to go again, or it's ripped apart by a werewolf or something, or else you've got to have a make, you've got to have several long things. That puts hire out often. So it's being creative to actually sort of feed into whichever one of those areas you're going to need to get the costumes from, really.